It's been recognized by the ranking member and myself that we have time for round two. I know you're having so much fun here. You want to continue this.
I'm ready.
And I'll start with myself again. The IRS Advisory Council public report that was published in November of '23 recommended that the reporting threshold for Form W2G be increased to $5,000. As you know, the threshold of $1,200 has been a static amount since 1977. In February 2024, I co-signed a letter with several of my appropriations colleagues on this issue. What consideration, Commissioner, have you been given to update the W2G threshold in accordance with the recommendation of the IRS Advisory Committee?
Yeah, I'm aware of this issue, Congressman. I think it's very valuable when we get input from the taxpaying community and from our advisory council on when thresholds may be out of date. As I've mentioned throughout this hearing, the determination of something like that is of a regulatory nature, and therefore, while they would consult with me, the decision rests with Treasury, the Office of Tax Policy, in consultation with the Secretary. I know that this particular recommendation is under serious consideration, and I can certainly provide you a more detailed update following this hearing.
That'd be great, sir. Another interest I have is in cannabis.
Yes.
And trying to set some regulatory guidelines and fairness there. And when Treasury Secretary Yellen and OMB Director Young testified before the subcommittee in March, we discussed access for cannabis banking. And just last week, this administration announced its plan to recommend reclassifying cannabis from a Schedule I to a Schedule III substance. Today, legal cannabis businesses are unable to utilize the banking system and are barred from certain tax exemptions, forcing businesses to hire armored vehicles to transport their cash to make tax payments to the IRS as well as local offices, creating both logistical and security issues for all involved. Commissioner Werfel, have you seen or have you thought about any improvements to the process of how these legal cannabis businesses pay their taxes, and what are your recommendations to create a safer and less burdensome payment process for these businesses?
Yeah, Congressman, the announcement on the change in status for cannabis is recent, and what we need to do in a moment like this is understand the implications that this change will have on a whole variety of different elements of this part of the economy. As you mentioned, what will their status be with respect to financial institutions? Will they remain mostly a cash-based industry, or will they move into something other than cash? All of these things are important moving pieces for the IRS to determine how this emerging and changing industry is assessed at the right level and paying what they owe. And so there's more work to do. I think based on my reading of some of your comments, you're asking all the right questions in terms of what do we need to anticipate given this change. We shouldn't just sit on our hands. We should be active and looking at what steps we need to take, and we need to interact with this community and make sure we understand and talk to them. I mean, typically when we engage with industries, we find that they're very amenable to discussing and getting a better understanding of clarity of what they're going to be expected to do. Certainty, tax certainty, is one of the Taxpayer Bill of Rights. It's not a good thing if you're operating in ambiguity. It's a stressful enough situation to pay your taxes, but if you have ambiguity. So my commitment is to work with you and this community to understand how this change evolves the industry and make sure we set up the right tax structures for them to operate in.
And wouldn't it be fair to say that if given the opportunity to have the banking system involved in this process, it would make life a little bit easier for you? Because you'd be able to have a third party in which you could judge the finances?
Yeah, I mean, I think history has demonstrated that when we get third-party information, 1099 reporting, it drives a lot of integrity and quality control into the system. It reduces the number of uncertainties and variables. It often is helpful for the taxpayer because they're aware of what the IRS has been informed of in terms of income. So in general, yes. With anything, I'm sure there are tensions, paperwork, burden, privacy, all these other issues that will surface. And my job will be to be at the table and explain what the various trade-offs are from a tax administration standpoint.
And I've heard you discuss this with others about trying to make the offices user-friendly as possible. Do you know what, if any, resources are available to legal cannabis business to help navigate their payment and reporting compliance?
Typically, what happens
Responsibilities?
when we have an issue like this or an emerging change in an industry, for example, new currencies, new tax credits, where people that previously didn't have eligibility now have, like car dealerships. In the case of the Inflation Reduction Act, we build a collaboration and engagement. Sometimes we can do FAQs. Sometimes we can hold webinars or roundtables. It seems like this is a material change and that's going to impact this industry and likely will warrant that we start building that type of stakeholder engagement.
Great, thank you. I've exceeded my